Well, let's get started. My name is Matt. Uh, I am a Gen Xer, I suppose. Grew up in the 80s, 1980s, that is. Um, I'm a bit older now, of course. I guess that number gives away my age. I'm a little older than I thought I would be when I still feel young, but my body is disagreeing a little bit sometimes. Anyway, I grew up on a farm in upstate New York. Um, Surrounded by cats and dogs and a turkey once in a while, cows and corn. And yeah, it was a good way to grow up. But I've always been, to some degree, an engineer. I come from you could make the argument I come from a line of engineers. My dad was an engineer. My grandfather on my mom's side was an engineer. And I've always kind of thought that way. Um, And so, why am I doing this? I feel like uh, there's a whole new generation of engineers who are not engineers yet, and they may not even they may not even become engineers. They're people who kind of grew up like me, taking things apart, inquisitive, wanting to know why things work the way they do, how they work, not satisfied with a black box and have to go and see inside. And that was how I worked when I was a kid. You know, I would receive gifts for Christmas when I was young and want to take them apart. I want to figure out what was inside. That was the game for me. Um, and I was reading an article. There's an article, in fact, I'll even put a link to it. It was talking about, it says, engineers are on the brink of extinction, threatened by an entire tech ecosystem. It's from July 2022. And what they were saying, and I think it's very true, is that it's hard to tinker. It's hard to do what I could do back in the 80s when you could take something apart and figure out how it worked, look inside, kind of satisfy that curiosity. Even if what was inside you didn't quite understand, you could see that, well, there was something there, right? If it was mechanical, you could probably figure out. If it was electrical, it was a little more difficult. But there's almost no chance to do that now. I could take my walkie-talkies apart when I was a kid, when I got them for Christmas from Radio Shack. Now you can't take apart your phone. In fact, hell, companies prevent you from even trying to do that in the name of security. And so, how do you learn how to become a computer engineer? How do you learn these things? Software is pretty easy to get hold of. You can download, you can learn, a lot of things there. On your own, and it's pretty easy to get started. But if you're trying to, scratch that itch for being an engineer, like a computer or electrical engineer, it's kind of hard to do that. And it's hard also because the level of abstraction has gone so far high. Like, when I was a kid, you could get down to the machine level of a computer and write code, right next to the processor, so to say. Now you can't. Now it's very difficult to do that, and it's very complex. It's hard. It's hard to understand what's really happening under the hood. So, why am I doing this? Well, I'm a little older. I've learned a lot through my career and through doing the things that I've done. I've always been an engineer, I think, at heart. I like to think like an engineer, which I don't think is a big, it's not as bad as it sounds, but you can, have an inquisitive mind, right? Wanting to know why, and being able to try to go to figure it out. I think that's what an engineer is a lot of it's about that. So I thought, well, I'm getting older. I figured some things out. Maybe I can help. Maybe I can help tutor teach. I've done tutoring before, and I really loved it. I loved seeing the light bulb come on in people's eyes or minds, and see them figure out what, why something works the way it does. And I want to give back. I want to have some kind of legacy I can give to others. For people that kind of have a small fire lit inside of them, that, instead of letting it being blown out by fear or uncertainty or, questioning whether you can do it, I'd rather pour gasoline on it and let that fire explode and take them down a path if you or whoever is listening is interested in this space. Perhaps pick it up, at least understand it. It's not magic. It's not anything that can't be learned. It's not rocket science. It's something that is not that difficult, actually, as it turns out. I think it just has to be taught in the right way, or at least in the way that somebody can understand. So it may be daunting, but don't worry. If you can understand how magnets work, if you can reason, if you live your day-to-day life, I think you can understand it. I think you can understand computer engineering and what that is, and even be able to tell your friends at dinner parties. I'm sure that will be really popular. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to try to do some next installments, some videos, some things that will help to teach what I've learned, and maybe teach it in a new way that will help you understand. I may get some things wrong. I really won't. We'll try not to, of course. But my goal here is to be authentic, and maybe inspire some interest. I'll let the professors get everything else right. But in terms of this set of conversations, I'm hoping that I'll help some people. Maybe not all listeners. Maybe it's not up your alley, but I hope some people will find it exciting, find it fun, and enter an area that is exploding. Really, I mean, if you look what's happening today, especially today. I mean, right now it's in the end of 2022. Computer engineering, semiconductors, all of that space is just exploding. It's the underpinning of what we use on a day-to-day basis, right? It's the reason why your life is so much better today than it was many years ago, even back in the 80s for that matter, when I kind of got my start. The dimensions are staggering. The fact that these processors are going down to like 3 nanometers, it's hard to believe. When I started back working in the semiconductor industry, back when I was out of college, the dimensions were 0.42 micron, which, if I'm doing my math right, is 420 nanometers. And now I think the dimensions are coming down to 3 nanometers. On these things. And don't worry about what the dimensions are. It doesn't matter for the sake of this conversation. It just means that it went from 420 to 3, and that was about from 1998 till now. And that turns into a lot of really staggering benefits and challenges, too. And there's a lot to do. There's a lot more to do. But as you can see, if you've been alive for any period of time, you've seen that things are getting faster. That there's a prevalence of AI that was just not possible at the scale we have it today. All these things, they say IoT or computing in general, is everywhere. It's everywhere. You'd probably in places you don't even see it. I wouldn't be surprised one day if I comb my hair with a comb that has a chip in it. Although, realistically, I'm not going to have much hair left to be able to do that. But someday it might happen. And, in the end, computer engineering, the jobs in this area, they pay well. And if you can be an engineer in that space, you can be, you can have a lot of fun, and you can do well. And it did well for me. I still love the space, even though I'm working in an area. I have a company that is in a bit of a different space than working in semiconductors day to day as a chip designer. It's still an area that fascinates me. That I would say I keep one foot in that space, and I think it could be captivating and very exciting. So I'm hopeful that this video or this audio, whatever the hell this turns out to be, turns into something that will help and maybe spark a fire for you, and give yourself maybe a career or a career path, or at least an interest in this space, and realize it's not magic. It's all understandable, and anybody can do it. You just got to apply a little bit of time, and hopefully listen to a guy that will try to help you along. You have a good day.